I almost always start with the story like how I got here, right? So I've seen African art here and there, and when we say African art, we really forget how big Africa is and like how diverse Africa is. Egypt is also in Africa. There are like tons of sub-Saharan countries and like West and East and South, and Africa is huge and like extremely diverse culturally. So when I wanted to talk about African art, but then I was like, okay, I will probably just go in really small parts because this is so huge, I cannot do it together. So, how I got interested in African art, I saw here and there, but this was an incident that really like changed my view about African art. So this is actually an airport. This is Atlanta Airport, and I remember like it was last year. It was my birthday, and I was coming back from Athens and then like from Georgia to Philly, and then I had a long time in the airport, so I just like walked around, and there were several sculptures, mainly from Zimbabwe, and then they were talking like they were like not old sculptures, they were from contemporary artists, but I learned a lot. Like I actually like took my time to understand the sculptures at that time. So one thing, if you remember from when I was talking about Rodin's work, and then I was talking about Balzac's like sculpture that he made, and it was like the same story, right? So African art influenced European art so much, like so. What about African art is like they have very like so if suppose look at this image, right? So like the head is small, but there's like a really elongated neck, right? So these sculptures were talking about waiting, about yearning to meet favorite people. That yearning is this long neck. So the thing is, like the abstract thinking that when a person is very very knowledgeable, their head is big. A person when he is like healthy or like wealthy, and then like his middle body is huge. So when you like there are like these proportions, these abstract ideas, like how, and like when you are like spiritual, the eyes are red, and then so these things really talk a lot in African art. So African art was like abstract even before abstractism was a thing. So for a long time, like in Europe, people really didn't realize, like they thought that okay, the Greeks and everybody went there and like invaded them, and probably like that's why they got the idea of art. But then more and more people looked at it, they realized that African art was very much African, right? Like, so they were originated there, they flourished there, they told their stories because that was their way of writing their history. So, again, like, so today I'm not talking about like the every part of Africa. I decided that I will talk about the west part of Africa, and which is the Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. So one thing about so now we know like I think like we are like appreciating African art more and more now. So again, like they're not from Yoruba culture, so today I'm like talking about the Yoruba sculptures, right? So Yoruba is like an old part of West Africa. I told that like it's Nigeria, Benin, and I think Togo. So this was the like one of the first things that they found. Like this was the head of Ife. Ife is a area, and now it's in Nigeria. So like this was a head of a king, right? So I think his name was Uni. And then if you look at like these brass sculpture, they didn't realize that the like how good the like brass quality, the copper, like the bronzes, like everything was so like well mixtured and everything. People really didn't realize that it's actually from Africa and they made it by themselves. So if you look at these like markings, there are like, and these beads and everything, they have their own history, like the tribes, like which tribe they're from, or like their facial, like their like influence, their like ideas. So everything was told in that, like the sculptures, right? So again, like I also wanted like to know, so this was for mostly for myself, because when I was talking about rodin sculptures, and then I was also like trying to understand that how this lost wax process works. So this is basically like you make the sculpture in a clay. So this is like a long process, and this is a very intricate process. So you make the like thing in clay first, and then you put wax like on top, right? So now you make more and more like details on the wax, and then you put like like put it in like wax. You can see like how this is bound, like this is now like a picture, and then you put another part of clay on top of it. Like so first you like make that, and then like you burn it out, and then you put another layer of wax, and then you put another layer of clay. Now so if I like it now, if you like what's the word, melt down the wax, there like see there is a clay, and then there is a like inside there is a hole, and then there is another layer of clay, right? So now if I put like only the input was like in here, and then if you put like molten like brass on here, like any metal, like they did it on like brass. And that's another thing, they thought that those ores were like coming from outside. No, they were actually from Nigeria. So then you if you put that on them, and then you see like now you get your like brass thing, right? Like the sculpture, and you break down the clay and you finish it up, and then now you have your like brass like thing. And then this is a very old, again it's in Africa. I found it's in India, in like later it was in Europe. So like they were like Europeans were extremely mesmerized, like how their stuff is so old but like so unique and everything, and how these intricate details were like, otherwise there will be like it will like the glaze, like it is like if you go more and more in the details, these are just beautiful, like how the alloys, the like the percentage of copper, everything. So I'm not going that much into it, but like it's beautiful. So again, now if we move, like now I wanted to move to a like story, like now we are appreciating African art. So this is Benin bronzes. So the thing about Benin bronzes is that it's from Benin, of course. And then these were the stories, right? So when African art was like moved or stolen or everything, a lot of people said that they signed on a lot of agreements. But the thing about African culture was that it's not a written culture. Like the idea of writing on a paper is not their own. Like so their idea of restoring their history was on bronzes, right? So they were making bronzes, and each of these bronzes are talking about a story that happened like in that like king's life, or like day-to-day life or something. If you look at like each of the bronzes and even the facial like characters, like you can say that okay, this was this person and that was that person, and that's how their history was conserved. And they said like these are not just artifacts, they are their ancestors themselves, like their spirits are in those bronzes. So like you really have to like they have to be in their home to be like spiritually like content. So these are why I'm telling all of this is like these bronzes are just not art for them. Like it's like they're like Nigerians, like they when I was like listening to their interviews and everything, even now, like how connected they feel to this are like beautiful. So like this was a sad story of Benin bronzes is that in 1897, like before that there were like okay some looting and like some stop stealing and stuff like that was happening by Portuguese by like this and that. But what happened in 1897 was that there was an expedition going on, and then suddenly and then Britain like they made and loot in the king like the king's palace, and they looted the whole palace, right? And like thousands of bronzes were looted, and then those were like taken to the Britain, like to Britain, and then they were sold to different museums. And the biggest collection now is in British Museum, of course. So now time went by, and then more and more like Nigeria was getting the idea that like and like art was like flourishing more and more, and people got like educated more and more. And at one time, like I think it's in like it started from 19 something, but like in 2000 it really got like in limelight that we want our art back, because again I was telling that it's not just art for them, it's their ancestors' history. Like they're like you cannot just like put their ancestors on ground like that and then like so this was like deeply saddening for them. So these bronzes you can say like how much they're talking about, like even the proportions of the people, like probably they're soldiers, they are like big people, and then probably like they're like and they're saying like the rank, they're saying they're like these beads counts, even the like facial like beads, the beard, like everything is telling their story. And then now it started, I think it started in Cambridge University. Like the universities actually started the initiative. Like they were like okay, we will like give the bronzes back whatever we have. And there is also a United Nations like stolen art initiative, and a lot of countries can like talk about it, and then like they can like because they bought this from British. So they're not just gonna give it back to you like out of like mercy. But some universities did. Some universities were like, okay, we will make a collaborative like collaborative thing. Like some was like okay, we will give on loans, and Nigeria is working on it for so long that like also like they made a museum in Benin, like Benin made a museum, and then like they are taking them back, and like very slowly. Like suppose I think like you'll hear that like I think Cambridge gave, and then like then you from USA I think University of Iowa like they sent some back, and then so they have to like make sure that they're going in the right place, right hand. And then so I think that this is very beautiful, like even like how like I was listening to the the interview from the Cambridge, and like how they were talking about like that, yes, we understand the value of these arts, and we understand the sentiment, or like not just sentiment, it's their national treasure, their heritage. And then like, because if the people believe that it's their ancestors themselves, they have to be back in their own land, right? So like, and then like now more and more like dialogues are opening, and more like they're researching together. And because there are a lot of like things here in West, and then like they can help them to like restore that, how okay, how you can restore it better, and then like how you can like keep it in a better way and stuff like that. So I think like the initiative that's the universities and the museums like were doing with one another, it's I really like that. And the Nigerian government, Benin government, like they're also working on it, and you can see the happiness. Like this was one of the restitutions, like they are like officials from their country. And then like I think this is just beautiful. But at the same time, like I was listening to like the still standing, right? So I'm like going back to it. And about Benin bronzes, the first thing that came to my mind was, of course, like I saw like I think I forgot the name of the sculpture, but it was from Rajshahi, and it's in Met right now. And I just looked at it, I'm like, okay, this is from Rajshahi, I can just tell it. Like so I think it was a Vishnu Murti or like something. So there, like I cannot tell how many like thousands of sculptures are gone from Bangladesh by now. And then even if the ones that are remaining, you look at it like this is Borendra Museum, and like how bad the situation is in Borendra Museum. Like these are terracotta, so they get bad. And then like, and the like, yeah, so I think Bangladesh could do a lot better. And I don't want to even start on Asan Monjil's like because I haven't seen it on in my eye, but Asan Monjil I have seen it. Like even when they made the whole thing bright pink, I was like, what are you doing? And then, so I think there is a lot to learn. And the thing about this is like when I looked at it, like I actually like when I like knew the name, like that United Nations actually have an initiative, and any country can like use that platform to ask for their like stolen sculptures back. And Indonesia is actually doing it. And suppose British Museum didn't give any of the Benin bronzes back, and then there is more and more pressure on British Museum every day. Like other countries, like so Netherlands gave back, and then so they are putting more and more pressure on British Museum, but British Museum already like Britain actually have a law that they will not give the anything back. So I think because it's there, like they get profit from it. But anyway, what I'm saying is there could be a lot stronger like political and like like international affairs. Those people should like can be a lot more strong voices, because there are actually opportunities to say that. But I think when I looked at it, there was more like, okay, which political leader took what, and then like this and that, and then they were just bashing each other. There actually is no like there is no point of bashing each other or like complaining and everything. Because when I was reading about Benin bronzes, like Benin was talking about it forever, like, hey, give our stuff back. But that doesn't just do it by its own, right? Like nobody is just gonna give you anything back. You have to prove it. You have to say that, okay, I'll like keep it in a better like thing. And then I think the Cambridge one was actually showing that those museums will actually go in and check that if they're doing a good job, because again it's their property like it was their property for years. And so yeah, so Bangladesh needs to do like a very good job on that. On like I don't know, don't understand that why Bangladesh don't understand doesn't understand that how like how like not just historical value, like even if like monetary value of like the arts, I don't understand that. But again I think so when I actually wanted to end with this, because again like when I was again listening to the Benin Bronze's videos, they were saying that okay, the government is putting so much money in like getting the old art back that they are not actually funding the present artists, right? So actually the bronze art is still a thing in Benin, and then like there are probably like only 50 people who do that right now. So they were like, we need government funding because like otherwise we cannot like do it, because before in old days like kings and queens will like pay for that, like they will buy the bronze and then like you will just like work on the art. But now the artists have to buy the bronze themselves, and then like that's expensive, and then they cannot sell it in the international market like market value, right? Like they sell it in a very low price, and then the middlemen sell it like in a high price. So they were telling that okay, come to Benin and then like buy from the local artists. But again, who's going to Benin to buy that? So now I think like they were saying that how government should put an effort in like preserving the like their own. But I think now that Benin and Nigeria and are understanding that okay, like this is important, understanding that something is important is the first step, right? So like they are now planning that the like the attention or the money they will get from the old like showing the old sculptures and everything, they will put that money in like new uh, art, right? Like they will put that back to the artists who are like still doing the same thing. And then like they are very emotionally attached to it, that like our ancestors were kings craftsmen, and we are like kings, like kings are not there anymore, but we are still there like people, stuff like that. And same you'll hear from like Bangladeshi artisans, right? Like so I found out like this was, I think it's a dam from dam, right? Or something, but like you can see, isn't it Hola Baba something? I forgot his name, but he like I totally forgot his name, but yeah, but you I know his like image. And then like whatever that is, what I'm saying is it's the same in every country. And if Bangladesh understands that art is important, the next step they can like put money both in museums like to preserve the old art and also to collect the new art and like also to grow that art, right? So I think like there is a lot of like room from learning. And I think like because I wanted to like make it in a way that like we appreciate the African art, and at the same time we understand the problems and understand the like challenges and like work on it together. So yeah, I think that's it for now.